Hi and welcome to Be More Super, the podcast. I'm Brian, your host, and as always, we've got a great guest for you. So if you're a fan of Firefly and Serenity, you're in for a treat. Because this week's guest is a wonderful, talented dual Staite that played Kaylee, the mechanic, on the absolutely outstanding show Firefly. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the interview. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by the wonderful people at Prop Store of London. So check out their wonderful website, propstore.com. So let's escape for a while and enjoy. And remember, please share, like, and subscribe with all your friends. So here we go with our interview with the wonderful dual Staite.
Welcome to Be More Super, the podcast.
Up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's Superman.
An action-packed podcast where we'll discuss all things entertainment.
You're the answer to Are We Alone in the Universe?
Conventions, prop collecting, cosplay, interviews, reviews, and so much more. The show starts with host Brian Gardner right now.
So on this week's Be More Super, the podcast, we've got a real treat for any fans of Firefly and Serenity. We've got the wonderful Kaylee, the mechanic, the very talented, of course, dual Staite. Jewel, thank you so much for being on the show and welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So how is lockdown and everything? Because it's becoming a trend now where we're asking guests, how is everything? Your end?
It's all right. I feel like it's been forever. The first month was a little bit harder. My son is 4.5, and he was obviously let out of school. So it was just us three in the house, and he was very confused and bored, and first month was an adjustment, and now I feel like we're in a groove and feeling positive, and things are slowly starting to open up here as well, which is helpful. We have all the playgrounds opened up in the neighborhood, so we can actually do things with our son, as opposed to, me being his, I call it his, private circus clown, where I'm just meant to entertain him all day, which is exhausting.
It is, because it's bad. I suppose it's bad enough being just a single person in the times that we're in now with lockdown, but I've got two little girls myself, one's 6 and one's 2.
So you get it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so they haven't been to school for about three months, and it's taken quite a big psychological sort of curveball to them, because they can't socialise. Zoom and other software like that has come into play in the way of communicating, but it's so hard keeping them entertained. We've had Play-Doh all over the house. I've stood on so many Lego. But fingers crossed, this whole lockdown, when it lifts, is going to be a reset button on humanity. We're going to care and not take advantage of things as we were doing before. But then, the world is getting crazier with all the protests, and rightly so. We should have a voice, and we should be able to say what we want and what we care about. I just wish all this madness would stop.
I know it's gotten to the point where I'm afraid to read the news every morning, but I can't help myself.
Yeah.
So I'm opening it reluctantly, and I know that it's going to shift my mood, but at the same time, it's like this weird balance where you want to be kept informed, but you also want to preserve your own mental health.
And don't you think it would be great to have a news channel that's just dedicated to good news?
Yes. Well, there's this Instagram account that I found. I think it's called Thanks Good News.
Right.
And it's awesome. It's just that.
Excellent.
All it is news from the world. So if you ever need a detox, that and dog videos, I find, are just super helpful.
So let's rewind back to your upbringing. You were born in White Rock.
Yes, which is 20 minutes away from where I live right now. What
an amazing place, White Rock. Is it such a cool place? I mean, it sounds like a cool place.
It's beautiful. It's this little beach town full of, we say, newlyweds and nearly deads. and there's one little boardwalk and lots of little restaurants and stuff. So we sometimes go there now, even just because it's a cute little place to go for dinner and sit on a patio. But I was born in White Rock, and we were there, I think, for a month, and then we moved to Hawaii because my grandparents managed a really tiny inn in West Maui, and they needed help running the inn. And my dad was a maintenance man, so we went over there and he did all their maintenance, and my mom took care of me, and we ended up staying for 4 years. So time just kind of, I guess, flew by for my parents, and I don't think they wanted to go home, but we ended up leaving when I was about 5 so I could start school in Canada.
And then, I mean, to say that you've been in the industry for over 25 years is just amazing. And you was apparently...
30 now.
Sorry, 30 now?
Over 30, over 30,
30 years. Because you was discovered...
I started when I was 5, and I'm 38 now. 38, yeah. 38.
So how was you discovered at 5? I mean, were you just approached? I mean nowadays, if someone approached my little girl, you would stand off and think, wait a second. But
right.
I mean, how did it happen for you?
I was in a shopping mall with my mom, and I guess they were having some sort of open casting call for a commercial. Yeah. So they asked my mom if I would be interested in doing the commercial and auditioning, and I said no. And my mom said, well, if you do something like this, you earn money, it's work, and then you can buy yourself all the clothes you want. And I said, okay. So it was a very quick yes from me. And then it just kind of took off. It was just sort of this thing that kept happening. Yeah. And I just kept booking work and so we just kept up with it because I enjoyed it and I've always loved it. And so in this weird way, it kind of found me.
I'm being a child actor. Did you were you aware of any pressures on your shoulders as a child actor?
I'm not sure I was. I think when I got to the Disney Channel days, I think I was about 14 when I started working for the Disney Channel, it became more apparent that there was this pressure to be a role model, I guess, to other kids. And that was new to me, but I was a good kid, so it wasn't that big of an issue for me to keep up with that. But it was always instilled in me that it was a job. Yeah. It was an unusual job, but it didn't make me more special than anyone else. My parents were very quick to bring me down to earth if, ever I got the misconception that I was super special because I was in front of the camera instead of behind the camera. It's always just felt like a job. It's a fun job and a crazy job sometimes, but it's just my weird job.
And now you've got a beautiful family. You've got Charlie, your husband, and is it Wilder?
Wilder.
That is such a lovely name. And
it suits him. I don't know what I was thinking.
Looking back to when you was a child actor, would you like Wilder to follow in your footsteps, or would you prefer him not to?
I think I have this real need for him to have a normal life. You always want to give your children what you feel you didn't get, right? Yeah. Isn't that the thing? So I had this strange childhood where I would do some regular school hours at school with school friends, and then I would have to stop everything and get on a plane and go and do a job. And in a lot of ways, it made the other kids look at me funny. And when I would get back to school, I would have missed so much socially that I felt a little bit like an outcast. Yeah. I remember I was enrolled in summer camp, and I was excited about going to summer camp. And I booked a job, and my mom had to come and pick me up from summer camp and take me home to do the job. And it's not that I was devastated about it. I actually ended up hating summer camp. I'm not a camper, it turns out. But just things like that where work came first was kind of an odd way to grow up.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I would resent it and say, I want to go to that birthday party. I want to go to the school dance. I don't want to be the only one that wasn't there. And I think for my son, I just want him to be able to be a kid and not have the responsibility of work on his shoulders as a child.
Yeah.
I really want that for him. Having said all of that, he's a little star performer. I mean, he makes me listen to him sing the soundtrack from Frozen every morning. That's how my 7 a.m. starts. It's in him, which is terrifying, to see it in your child. No matter what you do, they are who they are, right? So you kind of have to nurture what comes naturally to them too. So I don't know. He obviously is 4.5 and hasn't said anything about wanting. He says he wants to be famous, which is also disturbing. But someone asked me for an autograph and he said, "Why did you do that, Mama? Why do they want that?" And I said, because of the TV show I did. And he said, "Does that mean you're famous?" I said, "I don't know. It depends on who you ask." And he goes, "Well, I want to be famous." I'm like, great. How about a doctor? No, airline pilot. So I don't know. We'll see what he gravitates towards naturally. It's going to be interesting to see, but I have this sneaking suspicion that he's going to want to be in the business. So it's going to be up to me to, balance that for him.
And what piece of advice would you give him in later years if he decided to be in the business?
I think it's most important to work on your self-esteem if you're going to be in this business, and to have a healthy sense of self and to keep that up as much as possible, because the whole gig is rejection.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to take rejection and not let it get to you. It's natural to feel sad when you don't book the job. It's natural to feel frustrated when you aren't booking enough work. And it happens to every single actor. So I think it takes a special kind of person to be able to take that abuse and still want to do it. I mean, your passion has to be so big for it that you simply can't imagine doing anything else.
And how do you deal with rejection? So you go for an audition, you've got your sides, and you do the audition. Do you just walk away and forget about it and then just wait for that phone call if it happens, or do you wait for that phone call hoping?
Yeah, it depends on the gig. Honestly, it really depends on the gig. There's been lots of auditions I've had where I really couldn't care less if I booked the job, and I just sort of use the audition as a fun exercise. I don't go to class, so for me, auditions are class.
Yeah.
And it's a fun way to kind of work out your muscles, so to speak, and go in and do whatever you want, take some risks, and that can be pretty exhilarating. So I use most of them for that and that alone. But every once in a while, a script will come along and I'll go, "Oh no, I'm starting to care." And then, you can't help but be on pins and needles after the fact and wait for the phone to ring, because you just, I don't know, every once in a while you just feel like it's yours. I'm so right for this. How dare they hire someone else? That sort of thing happens,
But you're obviously very good at auditions, because over the years you've been in absolutely everything. You've guested.
Good streaks.
Sorry?
I've had some good streaks.
You have? No, and it's continuing. You've been obviously in Firefly, that we'll talk about in a moment, Serenity, Stargate Atlantis. You've even had a guest role on Supernatural as Amy Pond. So let's talk about Firefly. Okay, This is just an amazing show that's lasted the last 18 years. And it's bizarre because I was watching a video and you was talking about when Firefly was coming out, and they were promoting another show called Fast Lanes, which do you know what? I've never heard of it. So obviously it can't be that good.
They don't have fast lane conventions, I'll tell you that.
They do not. But I tell you what, they have Firefly conventions, and Firefly have got so many followers, so many fans, good old brown coats. I mean, let's talk about your role, Kaylee the mechanic. How did you get the role on Firefly?
I auditioned. I put myself on tape. I was living in Vancouver, and Joss had seen me in something, or there was some sort of thing where they wanted to hire me for a guest spot on Angel or something, Buffy even maybe, but I couldn't do it. I was Canadian. I didn't have the proper visa or whatever it was, and it went away. But I guess he remembered me or something. So this request came in to put myself on tape for the role. I read the breakdown of all the characters. We did not get a script. I got 4 pages of sides.
Right.
2 scenes. That's it. Kaylee scenes. And I said, I thought the river character would be a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
Being an actor, I'd like to play crazy people. It's just more fun, honestly. So I thought, oh, but this one looks juicy. And I said, no, they're very adamant that it's Kaylee that you read for. So I read for it, sent it, thought nothing of it. A few weeks later, I get this call out of the blue asking to get on a plane and go down to LA to test for the network. And Joss wanted to meet me first beforehand. So I got on a plane and I went to meet Joss, and he worked with me on the scenes for a little bit and seemed very positive in that the role might be mine, but I wasn't sure. So when I got to the test, there were a couple of other girls there auditioning. Alan Tudyk was also at my test. Adam Baldwin was in the waiting room. So we were all kind of looking at each other going, I wonder who's going to get these parts. I read and walked out, and I think an hour later my phone rang and they told me that I had the job.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you
Life
had
changed.
it certainly did.
Yeah.
And when you got the script for the very first time and you read through it, what was your first impression of the show?
I thought it was the concept was amazing. The dialogue was interesting, right? Because on paper it doesn't resonate like it does when you hear it out loud. It's really smartly written, though, because when you do hear actors say those kinds of lines out loud, they sound very lyrical. It's almost like a song, the way that Joss writes the rhythm of his words and sentences. And so when we had our first read through and we heard it all out loud, it was just this very strange, surreal, magical kind of feeling where we knew that we were sitting on something special and unique. And it felt that way the whole time. It still feels that way. It's lightning in a bottle. And to make matters even more interesting, we were the underdog from the very beginning. The network wasn't sure. We almost didn't get picked up at all. And the entire time we aired, we had all kinds of things going on with preempted episodes for baseball games and, time slot switches, and people didn't know how to find us on TV. And, it was just the kiss of death from the beginning. And we kind of had a feeling it would be short-lived. But we also knew that it was unusual and special, and hoped that somebody was watching it out there. And it turns out that lots of people were.
Lots of people. And can you remember the first scene that you had to film?
I think the first scene was, it was in the cargo bay. And I think it was with pretty much everybody except Inara wasn't in the scene. And the reason why I know that is because Inara was the last character cast.
Yeah.
There was another actress playing Inara. And we filmed a couple of scenes with her, and then Joss just felt that it wasn't the right fit. And he found Morena and hired Morena, and she walked onto set, and we refilmed those scenes, and then it felt like a cohesive, perfect, beautiful family. But I'm pretty sure those first few scenes we were doing were in the cargo bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With your character of Kaylee, did you have any input yourself in how you wanted Kaylee to come across?
No. Joss is super specific about what he wants. He really is. And it's helpful as an actor to have somebody say, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And we'll do take after take until he feels like it's right. But yeah, I was a 19-year-old kid, and just having the time of my life. So I just did what felt instinctually right and went with that.
Yeah. What was
Yeah.
you like as a director? Because I know that recently it's came to light that Brandon Routh was saying that Bryan Singer can be quite demanding on set, and he didn't enjoy it as people thought. He would have enjoyed being Superman. What was Josh like on set as a director to you actors?
Well, besides being very specific, he was incredibly well organized, to the point where he could almost relax. He had it mapped out so well that he was able to goof around with us between takes and between setups, and it didn't really feel like director producers are over here and the actors are over here, which it sometimes feels like. He was very interactive with all of us, and he loves to laugh. He's got a great sense of humor. So the silliness was encouraged on set, which was really nice. But he also pushes you. He taught me a flippin' lot in the small amount of time that I worked with him, because I was young and still testing my own instincts and working on my self-esteem and trying to figure out who I was and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
He was the one that said, I feel like you're holding back. Like, give me a little bit more here in this scene. And I'd say, oh, really? And he would go, yeah, why do you think I wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know. And he said, just give me all you got, man. Give me all you got. I said, okay. So he kind of taught me to go for broke in a way that I guess I wasn't given permission to do before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, your character, I've got to say, it's always looking on the bright side of things. And
Yeah.
I remember in one of the episodes, you had a chance to shoot someone, but you didn't. And, River took the gun and did her business. And I've got to say, I'm glad that you didn't shoot anyone. I think that would have taken so much away from your character. Your character is definitely the glass is half full, which is nice.
Absolutely.
I mean, what's your fondest memory of playing Kaylee?
I thought she was really funny. I got some really good comedic beats in the show and in the movie, and I was so happy and so giddy to be able to be the comedic relief. Those scenes were the most fun for me, and I love that she has a rich single character on the ship. Even Jane. They have this funny little brother-sister relationship going on.
Yeah.
There are so many moments that are that have no dialogue, but show this weird affection between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I think she's the only one, that he has that affection for. But yeah, just the tenderness she brought out in Mal, I love that. She just had a way of having people drop their guard on that ship, and I loved those moments the most.
And on the show, you play the mechanic, but in real life, how good are you at fixing things?
Useless, completely and utterly useless. I'm so proud of myself when I put something together on my own. You have no idea. I built this bookshelf for my son's crafts, and because they were everywhere. And it took me forever. And like one of the panels was on backwards, but I didn't care because I did it myself. I didn't ask for help. I scratched up the floor doing it. I don't know how I did that, but it's done. And it was like a big thing. My husband was like, good for you. I'm like, yeah, I feel great about that.
Oh, so
it doesn't come naturally to me.
The show ended with, no closure. I've got to say, we ended on episode 14, and I think the whole world were like, wait a second. And the great news were, a few years later, we get the gift of Serenity. I mean, how did that come about? Was that through the fans? Was it always Josh's, intention to get Serenity on the screen?
I think the fans had a heck of a lot to do with it. They were so mad when we got canceled and so vocal about it and just wouldn't let it go,
Yeah.
And I think the studio that ended up producing the movie, Universal, took notice of that and knew that they had something special that they could do with it. And Joss never wanted to let it go and always said, I'm going to find a home for us. I'm going to find a home for us. And we all went, yeah, sure. I remember when we wrapped the show, Alan took the button, the button from the episode Out of Gas in the bridge, and he gives it to Mal and he says, just press this button and both of our shuttles will come back and help you.
Yeah.
He gave the button to Joss and said, press this button and we'll all come back if you find a home for us. And he did. I know it's too much. I know. There's a reason why we all cry in our Q&As when we do conventions together. But we're a sentimental bunch. He did. He wrote this amazing script and got the green light, and we were all like calling each other going, is this for real? Is this really happening? And I think everyone was afraid to believe it until we were actually there on the lot doing our read-through for the movie. And it was a total joy to shoot because no one was worried about losing their jobs. We all knew when the wrap date was coming. It was this beautiful moment of redemption. We had this great big budget and knew it was going to look fantastic. And it was just the perfect end note for us anyway. Yeah.
And what a wonderful movie. I mean, we get to see the Reavers a lot more. Yeah, we get to see the Reavers. There's ups and downs. You finally get with Dr. Simon Sam. Yeah.
Yay.
But then sadly we lose Wash. And that it was just a shocker. It really, really is. So do you think we'll ever see Serenity fly again? I bet you get asked that all the time.
I get asked that all the time. I do. If I had a nickel, I'd produce it myself, Yeah. But stranger things have happened in this business. I feel like everything's getting rebooted, so nothing would surprise me at this point. I know there are new people at Fox saying, we loved it. We'd love to do it again, but who knows? And would it be with us? I don't know. Would it be with a totally new cast?
Can you imagine if they did a new cast? It would be uproar. I think there'll be petitions. They can't do with a new cast, surely, because the amount of fans that Firefly have got now.
That would feel very weird if that were to happen. I don't know. I shudder to think what. I just can picture Nathan Fillion going down to the studio and picketing himself. I'd be right there with him. I don't know. No, though. I mean, this business is so crazy. Who knows?
Who knows? It's always an open door, isn't it? I mean, release the Snyder cut of Justice League, we can always get a campaign going because look what happened there. The fans showing their support and now they're redoing it, which I'm sure that it's going to be an absolute amazing film. Josh did a great job, but obviously everyone was behind Snyder, so we'll see how it turns out. So let's talking about fans, let's do some fan questions.
Are there fan questions? Fabulous.
And before I go over on the fan questions, I just wanted to speak to you about social media because, you talking about being famous and your son saying he wants to be famous. There's always ups and downs to being famous. You get these lovely fans and then, I'm sure that you get the unusual ones. I'm being polite in how I'm saying it, the unusual ones. How do you deal with social media being in the limelight, having to deal with the positive and, the slight negative input on your social media accounts?
Well, I just think it comes with the job, and the other thing that comes with the job, if you're going to be active on social media, I feel anyway, is that you have to use your voice to spread awareness for issues that really matter. And if I'm going to do that, I have to be willing to take the flack for it too, from people that agree with me or people who feel like fighting. There's all kinds of people that just love fighting on the internet. And I just try and weed it out. Honestly, I just try and keep it clean and get rid of those comments and, block the truly terrible people and move on. I don't know. I think I've just gotten, I have a thicker skin about it now than I used to.
Has your approach to social media changed now you've got a family? Because I know going back quite a few years, I was working as a store manager for Build-A-Bear Workshop. believe it or not. And we had Jude Law come into the shop, and he asked for the shop to be closed so there's no paparazzi taking pictures of his kids. So we respected that. But you're quite open with your family, with your pictures. Has your approach changed now you've got a family?
I don't think it has changed. I've always been an open book. I want people to be able to get to know the real me. And that means, something other than the glamour pictures and photo shoots and the setup stuff that you see. I want them to know my real life. And I think part of the reason why I want them to know me is because I don't want them to feel alone in their own struggles with parenting and with life. And, I feel like everyone has their own choice, but I feel like I want to be able to use my voice to connect a little bit more with people out there and just to make everybody feel a little less alone.
Which is fantastic, because we do unfortunately get stars out there that use their voice for completely the wrong reasons.
Right.
Are very opinionated, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get any phone calls. But it's really refreshing to hear that obviously your stance on it is to bring a bit of sunlight to this stormy weather at the moment.
I try, yeah, and I love to laugh. I mean, the accounts that I follow on social media for the most part are comedians and stupid meme accounts on Instagram and whatever, because I love to laugh. So the beauty of social media is you can curate it to be whatever you want it to be. You can follow the types of people that make you feel good. I don't think you should be following anybody that doesn't make you feel good.
Yeah.
Right. So I also want to make people laugh, and I think in this climate, that's really important right now to just sort of be able to take a bit of a break.
Yeah. So let's make some fans very, very happy now.
Okay.
So I will do my best to read out their Instagram sort of handles, their names.
Okay.
So we've got New West Boy 66. He's asked now. Oh, this is very official. Now that Mrs. Staite lives in Canada and COVID has closed down almost all Comic Cons, does she have an address where fans can send or request an autograph picture?
I don't have any of that going on. I don't think I ever really have. Just because I have been on the convention circuit so much that we've just never really had any need for it. I'm hoping soon we can get back on the circuit again, resume being able to travel and meet people. Who knows when that's going to be. It's such a strange
But you're
time.
doing a virtual Comic-Con tomorrow, so this won't unfortunately be out in time, but that's with Creation Entertainment.
Yes.
Have you got any plans in the future to do any more virtual Comic-Cons? Because that could be an opportunity for people to get autographs.
Totally. And I've heard that some companies are going to be willing to offer that. So we would be able to sign autographs and send them to the recipient. I hope so. I think it's such a new idea and a new market for the virtual conventions that everyone is just sort of testing the waters right now. Yeah. But I'm more willing. It's actually, we just got the go ahead. So I'm going to be going back to work soon on my show here in Vancouver. And when I'm working on that show, I'm Monday to Friday, 14 hours a day. So I'm unable to travel on the weekends, basically. So if the virtual conventions get going, it'd be a really great way for me to stay in touch, even when I'm working, by doing the conventions from home, if I can. Right.
Yeah, no. So there you go. New West Boy 66. Future virtual Comic Cons is in the works. So we've got David 93. What do you miss most about being on Stargate Atlantis? And would you ever reprise your role if the show ever came back?
Oh, I totally would. First of all, totally, completely. I miss a lot about that show. I miss the people, and that's the cast and the crew. When you're working on a show for that long, you get to know each other so well, and everybody just feels like a family. So it's really devastating when it all ends. That was one of the best gigs I've ever had. It was very easy in terms of the hours, and it's shot at home, so I got to sleep in my own bed every night. I mean, it was just a total thing of beauty. So ever since Stargate, I've really been wanting something like that again in my own city, and it's been hard to find, and only recently have I found it. So yeah, there's a lot I miss about that show. And it's funny because the cast of Stargate, most of them don't live here in Vancouver. And the Firefly guys are all over the place too. So these conventions are a great way for us to see each other.
Yeah.
Otherwise we don't, So we did a Stargate convention not too long ago in Australia and in New Zealand as well. And so to be able to do that and, travel around with these guys and see them in different parts of the world and explore different cities in the world is so much fun. And I miss that. That's one of the things I miss the most about doing the cons is seeing my fellow castmates.
And the next question from Eric M. Frazier. What role do you get recognized for the most?
Kaylee.
Yeah.
100%.
And would you reprise the role of Kaylee?
Yes.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah. I would scream very loudly if someone else got to play that role and it was not me. If they ever did a reboot, I would be very, very vocal about that. If you follow me on social media, I'm sure you're not surprised to me saying that.
So the next question got me a bit confused. I don't know if you know this person, Jeff Nimoy.
Oh, I know Jeff.
Yeah. So
yes,
he asked. Well, he said, "Do you know that Jeff Nimoy, so speaking about himself, is writing a role for you in Famish 2?" And Famish 2, I thought he was talking about the sequel to Fame, and I was like, "Yes, that would be cool." But he's made a film called Famish, which is about a voice actor on the convention scene, and apparently he's writing a part for you.
Well, you know where to find me, Jeff. You know where to find me, honey.
How good is that for someone to be writing roles for you, eh? That must be really nice.
Be nice, yes. Pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie.
And then from Beans Holmes, what's your funniest off-screen moment?
Off-screen moment?
Yeah.
Like just in any of the shows that I've done? Oh, gosh, I don't know.
I know, that's a bit broad, isn't it?
It's pretty broad because there's been a lot. I mean, people with Firefly in particular, I think because it got canceled so prematurely, I get a lot of people that are really sad about it, and they sort of approach me in this kind of sad, melancholy kind of way, talking about the show. But we don't feel like that, only because I feel like we got to know each other the most and had all of our best times together after the show, because it got so popular with the fans, and then we started traveling all over the place to do the show. So I've traveled the world with those guys, and we've had a lot of laughs and gotten into a lot of trouble all over the place. I've had all-nighters in Ireland and, oh God, barely made flights home. That kind of thing happens relatively often, I'll say. So yeah, I think those are my favorite off-screen moments, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
Sean Marr and I came really close and got smart a few years ago and decided to share our convention schedules with each other. So whenever I book one, I tell him, and he books one and he tells me, and we just try and get to each other's conventions so we can do them together and then see each other. So we've got to have all of these crazy weekends together recently. Last year, I think we had like 6 or 7 weekends away.
Wow.
Yeah. And our spouses are like, "Where are you guys going now? Like, what are you doing?" And we're like, "San Francisco." Like, woo! And have the best time. So, we're a tight cast, and I miss doing all that stuff, but I'm sure we will do it again.
I am sure, and would love to have you over in the UK in the future.
Oh my God, me too. I love the UK. I love going to the UK. We went to London Comic Con, I think was the last time I was there, and it was so much fun.
Yeah,
going over there.
So talking about films, I've got to say, I feel really bad that it's only taken me now to have watched this movie. So me and my wife sat down the other night and watched How to Plan an Orgy in a Small Town.
Oh,
And I tell you what, it's the most... it's weird me describing it like this, but it's the most magical film I have ever watched. Because, from the title, you would think, what the hell? But it's such a beautiful... it's such a beautiful film. It really is.
I know, it's the cutest.
And it was an Indiegogo project, and I heard that no one got paid for it.
No. We got incredible actors for that movie because the script was so good. And it just sort of spread through the grapevine. Ennis Esmer was the one that reached out to me, and he said, there's this great script, Jeremy Lalonde wrote it, and he wrote this other movie that you should see. So watch that, read the script, and then call me and let me know if you want to do it. And I read it and went, this is great. It's so touching and heartfelt and funny. And if we can get the right people, this would be perfect. So I was on board. And then we just started reaching out to other people. And Catherine Isabel was on board and Mark O'Brien and all these guys are so funny and so good and so committed. And you can tell that everyone was there because they wanted to be. Yeah. And that made it so much fun. I have never laughed that hard on a set in my life. I've never blown that many takes in my life. We were just laughing hysterically every day. It was total joy. And I'm so glad you loved the movie because I think it turned out so great.
Do you know what? More people should see it because for me, I spat my tea out at the scene where the guy is on the sofa and he sat there with such confidence. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And I spat my tea out and my wife was laughing her head off. And just
was in love with him because he was so confident on set. Like he was just like, he just didn't care. And everyone was like, all the guys were like, I want to be him when I grow up. He's so amazing.
Yeah, I've suggested it to my brother-in-law to watch as well today, funnily enough, but not to my mother-in-law because that would be just a bit weird saying to my mother-in-law, But what a beautiful film it really is.
Good.
So I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but please go out and watch it. In the UK, it's available on Amazon Prime right now.
Oh,
so
awesome.
There's no excuse for the UK listeners. For the US listeners, I'm not sure where they can get it from in the US or in Canada. I mean, do you know where?
Definitely, because it was produced in Canada, so it's definitely around and available to watch. If you give it a Google, I'm sure it'll pop up.
What a great movie. Great. And then before lockdown, you was working, and you were working on a new project called Family Law.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a great series to come. Do you want to explain a bit about it and what it's about?
Yeah. Well, it's about this woman named Abby. Abby's a lawyer. She's a really good lawyer, but she's also an alcoholic and has managed to screw up her life, screw up her marriage. She has 2 young kids with her husband, and she's committed this terribly embarrassing faux pas in court while drinking, and is being threatened with being disbarred. And her dad, played by Victor Garber, is a very high-profile lawyer at a family law firm, and he is the only lawyer in town that will take her on. And the issue is he and Abby haven't spoken for 20 years. And he also has 2 kids from 2 other previous marriages that work for him as well at the law firm. So not only does Abby have to swallow her pride and join this law firm she thinks she's above in every way, but also learn to work with her brother and sister that she's never met. It's a hilarious show. It's also really sweet. I think it's so beautifully written. Susan Nielsen is the showrunner, and she writes novels. So the way she writes is gorgeous anyway. So to have a novelist writing scripts for you is pretty spectacular. And it came along as a bit of a dream role. I really was wanting something that would keep me at home, something that was worth leaving my son for every day. Oh. And when it came along, that was one of those auditions where I went, oh no, I want this so bad. If this goes to someone else, I'm going to lose it. And luckily they chose me. So Yeah. It's been really, really fun. I can't wait to get back at it.
It sounds awesome. And Victor Garber
It'd be good.
is an awesome actor. For some reason, every time I see Victor on screen, I just think he should be in like a Victorian sort of period drama. He just looks the part.
Yes. Victor's like that in real life.
Is he really?
Yes, he is. He also has a very sarcastic sense of humor, very dry, which I love so much. And he makes me laugh all the time. So yeah, he said, what did he say? My Victor Garber story. He had when he first started the show, he would come in and do, one scene at the beginning of the day, and I'm there till the end of the day. So I was like, wow, my joke was, well, thanks for stopping in, Victor. And I said, what are you going to do with the rest of your day? And he said in a very Victor Garber way, well, the artwork in my hotel room is lacking. And luckily I know a friend who owns a gallery, and they're going to lend me some art pieces to hang in my hotel room to make it more livable. I was like, that's like, okay. Just made me laugh. Like, he's just looks like classy, debonair, gentleman. He's great. He's great.
So when is that coming out for us to all see?
January, I think. Obviously things were halted rather quickly over here, but we have about 2.5 months left of shooting, so we'll wrap in October and and get it cut and edited and ready to air in January. So it's pretty exciting.
Excellent. And is that a limited series, or is there potential for that to carry on?
It'll carry on, hopefully. Yeah, season 1 ends in a cliffhanger, so we'll see.
An exclusive there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Jewel, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
You're so welcome.
Are you all ready for your virtual Comic-Con tomorrow?
I think so. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting because I'm so used to having a live audience.
Yeah.
But I think people are excited about it. So hopefully everybody enjoys it. I think it'll be fun.
Excellent. Well, please put in a good word to Sean for me. I'd love to get him on the show.
Don't you worry about it.
Excellent. Well, Jewel, you look after yourself. Keep your family safe and all the best for the future. And I'm really looking forward to Family Law.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Be More Super, the podcast.
It was kind of a crazy, fun experience.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Listen, my whole family loves it, man.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button and share with your super friends.
My world, it means hope.